Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Dr. Grant Show. Today's show topic, I'm going to give you 4 easy ways for the beginner to learn how to cook Chinese food at home. So, the Dr. Grant Show is created and has been created for women that suffer from food addiction symptoms and food addiction symptoms such as overeating, binge eating, food cravings, emotional eating. My goal with this show is to give you the tools that you need based on real life situations that's going to help you get healthier, stronger, faster. So, everyone, welcome to the Dr. Grant Show. The top 3 tips that I have, well, really 4 tips that I have for you if you are trying and you're a beginner, you've been interested in making Chinese food, or maybe you just like Asian food, period. But you've always wondered, how do you go about making something like that? It seems so intimidating. It seems to have so many special ingredients, and it leaves you kind of overwhelmed, kind of confused. So the reason why I want to share this with you, followed by taking you step by step in how to prepare one of my favorite dishes. Actually, it's just one of them because I have so many dishes. But we will complete this cooking show episode with an actual lesson. Step by step, I will teach you how to make Shrimp Egg Foo Young, complete with the gravy. So, here are my top 4 tips for a beginner cook that wants to learn how to make Chinese food. These are my top 4 tips. Tip number 1, talk to your favorite Chinese food restaurant or Asian food restaurant. Ask them, how do you make it? Express an appreciation, a deep appreciation for their cooking. Let them know you will be back if they share with you just a few tips on their favorite dish. Now, this conversation goes much better if you adhere to tip number 2. Tip number 2 is begin to look up recipes for your favorite Asian food dishes and Chinese food dishes. The dish that I'm going to be preparing for you this evening, step by step, is Shrimp Egg Foo Young. However, I also like shrimp fried rice, shrimp cow. Remember, I'm pescatarian. You can substitute out any of these sources of protein with the protein or meat of your choosing. For my vegetarians and vegans out there, there are alternatives, such as utilizing tofu. You can also utilize seitan. You can also utilize, from what I've heard, jackfruit. Now, I've not tried jackfruit, but you can, I've read, use jackfruit as a substitute, and I believe it's called temp, is another substitute for you. So, for those vegetarians and vegans out there still wondering if you can use these tips, absolutely. So, once again, tip number 1, talk to your favorite Chinese food restaurant. That's tip number 1. Ask them, what are some special tips that you have for me? Because I absolutely love and adore your food. Once again, reassure them that you will be coming back, so they're not going to lose business and lose their profits. And let them know you've been tinkering, which leads us to tip number 2. Tip number 2 is, I've been tinkering. Here is what I pretty much found might be the ingredients in order to make my favorite dish, but I'm a little bit unsure. Tip number 3, where do you find the recipes? Now, I have found recipes on several internet sites. However, this is where the overwhelm kicks in. Certain recipes use certain ingredients that at the first time that you come across them, they seem really intimidating, like fish sauce or black bean sauce or oyster sauce. Here's the key to finding a recipe that works for you, even if you don't use the recipe I'm going to give you for the Shrimp Egg Foo Young. The tip is find 3 recipes of your favorite item that you like to eat. Find 3 different versions of that recipe and begin to notice the commonalities with those ingredients. And for ingredients that just intuitively don't feel right, just don't make that recipe. Here's a perfect example. I also love Thai food. One of my favorite dishes is shrimp pad Thai. And everyone makes theirs differently. However, one of my favorite dishes was shrimp pad Thai. When I was looking for the recipe and I see somebody's joined us, hi there. Let me send you a wave. So happy. Welcome to the show. So one of my favorite examples with my exploration and journey into learning about shrimp pad Thai and how to make it at home like the restaurants do and make it taste like the restaurants do was combing through several recipes. One recipe that I eliminated from the competition was a recipe that used ketchup. I'm sorry, I personally couldn't imagine a restaurant using, a good Thai food restaurant, using ketchup as its ingredient to make a good shrimp pad Thai. So this is a good example of, as you look over recipes, find 2 dishes, 1 or 2 dishes that are your favorite, and then find 3 recipes and then look for the commonalities in those recipes. For example, to make shrimp pad Thai, you would utilize tamarind paste, also brown sugar, limes, the protein of your choice if you're not using shrimp, and soy sauce, just to give you an overall ballpark of the recipe. The other 4th tip that I have for you if you want to learn how to make Asian food, aside from those other tips, is keep certain ingredients on hand all the time. It will reduce your intimidation factor because you won't have to run to the store if you notice that your top favorite dishes that you have, that you want to eat, the ingredients are just simply there at home, conveniently waiting for you. So those are my top 4 tips for the beginner that wants to learn how to make Chinese food or any Asian style recipe at home. Now, the top ingredients, this is technically a 5th tip. The top ingredients that you will want to have in your household include the following: fish sauce, soy sauce, brown sugar, tamarind, mirin, I'm forgetting something, cornstarch, and red bean paste or red bean curry paste. If you have just those basic ingredients, the black bean sauce and the oyster sauce are optional. But if you have just really those main ingredients, I'm vastly oversimplifying here, but you have the cornerstone for most Asian dishes. And what I mean by that in my repertoire would be Thai food as well as Chinese food. So make sure to ask any questions. Type those in the chat. The title of this show, let me post it in here, would be 4 tips to easily make your Chinese food dinner at home. So I have a bonus for you. I gave you the tips, really 5 tips, but I want to take it one step further with you. I want to demonstrate to you step by step how to make one Chinese food dish in the comfort of your home. That Chinese food dish is Shrimp Egg Foo Young. The ingredients that you'll need will be 8 eggs beaten in advance, 1 pound of cooked shrimp, half a cup of chopped onion, 1 cup of chopped mushrooms, 2 cups of mung bean sprouts, 4 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 teaspoons of cornstarch. So, mung bean sprouts, let me give you this tip before you embark on this journey. Please make sure to purchase your mung bean sprouts within 3 days of when you plan to cook them. Why? Because mung bean sprouts, they're sprouts and they don't last very long. They're highly perishable. They must be kept cold. So here are mung bean sprouts. This is what they look like. My shrimp already pre-cooked, just thawed from frozen and chopped up. I cut the shrimp in half because when you bite into the Shrimp Egg Foo Young, you want to make sure that the bites are manageable size. Now, the onion, freshly chopped, as you can see right here. Four tablespoons of soy sauce. Your cornstarch, already ready for you. And I already beat the eggs to save you some time. Now, for the gravy, because a lot of people say you just can't have this without the gravy. Whether you're in that camp or not, here's the recipe for that. 2 cups of veggie stock. Once again, I use veggie stock because of the fact that I am pescatarian, meaning the only meat that I eat is fish. But I also am mainly vegetarian. So the meat that I do eat, when I eat meat, it's fish. Mainly, I do adhere to a vegetarian diet. However, you can substitute out vegetable stock for chicken or beef stock, depending upon the kind of egg foo young you're making. In this case, once again, 2 cups of veggie stock, vegetable stock, 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of mirin, 1 teaspoon of toasted sesame seed oil, and 2 teaspoons of raw sugar. So we made this recipe a little bit healthier by swapping out white sugar for the raw sugar instead. I also utilize organic soy sauce for the recipe, as well as organic mushrooms and organic onions as well. So that takes some of the toxic load off of your body in terms of processing for those of you that might be concerned about that. Not to mention, sometimes certain restaurants may use certain additives and food additives. The advantage with learning how to make this yourself is you don't have to worry about that. You know exactly what's going into your food, and it's extremely easy. All right, so now you have all of the ingredients. The next step, we're going to take this on over to the stove, and we're going to begin by sauteing up the onions, the mushrooms, and the bean sprouts with a little bit of cornstarch and soy sauce. Let's take you on over to the oven. Okay, so now you are officially over here with me at my stove. So we're going to start by warming up the eye here. warming up the pan, sorry. And before it gets warmed up, we will just go right ahead, spray a little bit of non-stick cooking spray. And we will begin to just slowly add a few of the ingredients, just a drop of oil for sauteing. I like to begin with the onions first because I really want them to have a chance to cook down. So as you can see here, the onions are already beginning to cook. Once again, I like to add the onions first because of the fact that it will give it a chance to cook down. Mushrooms, they usually don't need too much time cooking. I have my flame, I would say, on a medium-high heat. So as you can see here, when you have your flame on a pretty much medium-high heat, you will notice that it really doesn't take long for this to cook. You want to cook the onions to the point that they begin to brown and turn from white to translucent. So if they're cooking a little bit too fast for your taste, just turn the fire down. So as you can see, it's already becoming translucent. And once again, I just don't like too much of a crunch with my shrimp egg foo young. So that's the reason why I start with the onions first. If you like more of a crunch, then definitely feel free to cook them for less time. So as you see, I've just added the mung bean sprouts. We're just going to stir this all together. So now I'm going to turn up the heat just a little bit. And I just want to saute this long enough for it to just wilt the veggies. I don't want to cook the veggies to death, so to speak. And just when it's looking like my veggies are wilting down, I'm then going to add my cornstarch and my soy sauce, followed by my cooked shrimp. You see, when you work with cooked shrimp, it saves you time. So it's extremely important when working with cooked shrimp to really not apply too much heat to it. If you apply too much heat to already cooked shrimp, unfortunately, you'll wind up with much smaller and tougher to chew shrimp, which is definitely not what we want. All right, so now it's time to add the soy sauce, followed by the cornstarch. Stir that in. Oh, if you could smell what I'm smelling right now, it just smells divine in this house. finally, we add the cooked shrimp. Now, for those of you that are wondering the purpose of adding the cornstarch serves as a thickening agent and keeps this from being too runny. So that is the reason, if you've ever seen cornstarch sitting on your grocery store shelves, that's one of the fundamental uses of cornstarch. To thicken sauces, gravies, and certain dishes. So as you can see right here, you notice how now the liquid in the skillet, it's not moving as freely as it was before, which is a good thing. It's smelling good in here. Now, this is pretty much done, just that quickly. So I'm going to turn the flame off. Look at that steam just, oh my goodness. Next, you're going to want to take this mixture and add it to the bowl with the 8 beaten eggs. So I have my adorable bowl here. I'm going to shift and move the camera so that you can see. Just want it to cool off a little bit. If your mixture doesn't have an opportunity to cool off just a smidge, you're going to wind up getting cooked eggs ahead of schedule. All right, so we let it just cool off just a little bit, just a smidge. And now we're going to pan the camera over to our egg mixture. Alrighty. So here is our egg mixture. Bring it closer so that you can see it. And to this mixture, we're going to add our divine smelling ingredients. The shrimp, the sauteed mushrooms, and the bean sprouts. Here we go. Now at this point, you just want to gently stir this mixture in. I'm going to pan in a little bit closer so you guys can see. So you're just gently stirring this mixture in, really to release just a smidge bit more of that cornstarch into the eggs. And now that part is done. Now you are going to return back to your stove. And this is where the magic begins to happen. So make sure to spray your skillet with a little bit of non-stick cooking spray, followed by just enough vegetable oil to cover your skillet. And you really want this oil to cover the bottom of the pan. That's what you're looking for. Your egg foo young will really be a pancake kind of shape. And what you want to do is fry the egg foo young until the bottom of it is essentially firm enough to flip. That's our goal. So I'm taking you through this live step by step so you can see essentially the steps that are included in doing this. And I also want to lessen the intimidation factor for you. And now we're panning back over. So I believe that it's hot enough. You can see I'm just simply spooning this adorable mixture in. So we'll start with 2. I'll pan out so you can see the shrimp egg foo young cooking. So we are taking, welcome Wisdom for Well-Beings. I see you joined the show, welcome. So this show, I am taking you step by step. I gave really 5 simple tips for the beginner that's interested in cooking Chinese food or Asian food. And I am finalizing everything by showing you step by step how to make shrimp egg foo young. So if you have any questions, just let me know. And once again, of course, if you're not a fan of fish, you can substitute the protein of your choice. But this is shrimp egg foo young. A pretty common dish when you go to the Chinese food restaurant that's served. And I just want to show everyone how easy it can be to make at home. Because if you learn how to make stuff like this at home, when you have that craving, you can have the option of having a healthier version available to you. So we're going to check the bottom, see how it's looking. It's brown, but not, okay, it's firm enough to flip. All right, so now we're going to flip it. As you see, it's beginning to get that adorable shrimp egg foo young shape that we all have come to know and love. And definitely, if you have any questions, just go ahead and type them in the chat. So as you see, this dish does not take a long time to make. Now, in order to drain the oil off, I've lined a plate with several paper towels. So when you transfer this out of the skillet, it'll have a chance to drain off some of the oil. Alrighty. So let's check the bottom of this. Since it's eggs, you definitely want to make sure that it has an opportunity to get done. And while that's cooking, I'll make 2 rounds of it just so you can see. And while that's cooking, I'm going to show you the other sauce, the brown gravy that goes with the shrimp egg foo young that we've made step by step. All right, so I am lifting this out. So underside is done. Once again, make sure that when you lift this puppy out, you're putting it on a plate that's already lined with paper towels. So I'm going to pan over here so you can see that it's getting a good opportunity to drain. It looks like your traditional shrimp egg foo young. Now, onto the gravy. I'll sit it there and prepare the gravy for you so you can see how easy that is as well. So, Gravy, once again, 2 cups of veggie stock. If you are not vegetarian or flirting with vegetarianism, that's fine. Use beef or chicken. 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, which I'm about to add now. 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of mirin, 1 teaspoon of toasted sesame seed oil, and 2 teaspoons of raw sugar have all been added in here with the exception of the cornstarch. Once again, if anyone's ever wondered what in the world is the point of cornstarch, it acts and serves as a thickening agent. So all you're really doing here is just drop the cornstarch in here, and I'm whisking it into the mixture. And as this begins to cook, it will begin to thicken. And you can see it thicken right before your eyes. Now, while that's going, I'm going to start another round of the Shrimp Egg Foo Young. So once again, the beauty of this being live, and I thought about pre-recording this for you, but I just really want to take the intimidation factor out. And I'll explain in a moment how I wound up becoming less intimidated and really loving how to make various Asian style dishes. So as you see, I'm returning back over here to stir this. And I will pan out a bit so that way you can see both of these items cooking. So now it's time to flip this over. As you see, it's beginning to look like our traditional style shrimp egg foo young right here, with the famous gravy that commonly goes with it over here on the other side. And it's definitely thickening up. So as you can see, just adding those ingredients together like that, it's already thickening up in the short time that we have spent together. Checking the underside. All right, another patty is done. And I have enough of a mixture to throw 2 more puppies in there. Do I cook every day? No. Definitely not. I don't have the stomach to cook every day. Right now I'm homeschooling the kids. So no, definitely not. But I probably say I used to cook once a week, once or twice a week prior to homeschooling the kids due to COVID. But good question. I do love to cook though. I love cooking immensely. Only because I learned how to make these recipes. Now, I want to direct your attention over to that sauce, because this is pretty important. So in the short time that we have spent together, look at the sauce. It's nice and thick. And that's because of the cornstarch. So that's done. Back over here, want to make sure that it doesn't burn, so we're flipping it over. So now, due to just a lifestyle change, due to homeschooling the kids, due to the pandemic, I would say that I cook maybe 4 times a week. as opposed to once or twice a week. And then I just cook a massive amount by tripling the recipe for the family. And that gets me off the hook. However, I do have some pretty picky eaters around here. So sometimes I wind up having to cook a little bit more than that. So as you can see, pretty much it's almost done. And we have made, how many patties have we made? It looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 different patties in just this time that we've spent together. Yep, I'm going to turn off the heat now. This goes without saying, discard your oil after using. Now, I do like to make my patties just a wee bit bigger, but if you want it to be smaller and more like cutesy wootsy, you can. If you want it to be smaller, then the key there would be just to use a smaller pan. But just in the interest of time, and because I don't want to cook this again, I went ahead and just like got a large pan. So let's go to the finished product. So these are our patties, and I'm going to put it on a bed of rice with the sauce. So you're going to see this whole thing come together. So we're going to take this and we're going to travel back over to the other side of my kitchen. Alrighty. So I moved you to the other side. And one moment, you're going to see me just adding the sauce here. Hold on, let me move the camera again. Thank you, I appreciate that. So I'm gonna flip the camera back around. Give me one quick second so you can see my face and adding and all that stuff and see the final dish. Hang on. Here we have shrimp egg foo young patties. One to give them a chance to drain also, so we can get that oil off of there. Okay guys, seriously, I know I talk about basmati rice all the time, but it's just so stinking perfect to use for recipes like this that you just can't beat it, okay? Especially this brand of basmati rice that I use. I'm horrible at cooking rice. The rice gods and I don't agree with each other. So basmati rice is an Indian style rice, and this brand, just 90 seconds in your microwave in a bag, one and done. I use basmati rice because basmati rice offers a few more trace elements nutrition-wise than just plain white rice. And it tastes just heavenly. It has a very slight, light, nutty flavor. So this is really more like mixing in another cuisine style when you add the basmati rice to the Chinese cuisine style, if you want to go like the people want to be purist around here and call it fusion. So allow me to grab, would it help if I could have the utensils in advance, huh? So allow me to grab this lovely fork so you can see the final product, and then we will be done. All right, so I am lifting this up now. One of them doesn't want to come here. All right, so lifting that up now. You can see this here, the shrimp egg foo young patty. Once again, use your protein of choice. And we have the sauce, which I'm gonna just, I hope I do this right and it doesn't turn out crazy, but here we go. Pour some sauce on me. All right, so you have the gravy, the famous brown gravy that goes with the shrimp egg foo young. You have shrimp egg foo young that I took you through step by step in order to make, along with a fast rice. So you have a complete package, Chinese food made step by step, healthier for you than getting it from the restaurant. Also much cheaper. I've given you the recipe. I've given you the ingredients that I used. I gave you five tips for the beginner that has ever wanted to make Asian food, yet felt intimidated or overwhelmed. So I gave you 5 tips at the beginning of this episode and capped off this episode with showing you step by step how to make shrimp egg foo young so you can see all of this in action. And the reason why I'm doing this for you is to reduce the intimidation and overwhelm factor. And how I got into this, which is a very funny story, will take less than 2 minutes, is I went through this exact same set of steps. These exact same set of steps that I went through, where I talked to my favorite Chinese food restaurant. I looked online for various tips and I was overwhelmed. So what I wound up doing is speaking to someone at my favorite Chinese food restaurant, plus a couple of other Asian restaurants, and I shared with them, look, I love Asian food, and this is what I've discovered so far as recipes, but I'm still afraid to make it. Can you give me some tips? It was a restaurant, a small restaurant in Kentucky when I was on business in Kentucky. And you know what happened when I did this? They took me back into their kitchen. The owner of the restaurant took me back into their kitchen, and he told his chef, she loves Asian food. She's been working really hard trying to figure out how to make it. You show her. You show her how to make the food. And a magical thing happened. They took me back in their kitchen and showed me step by step what ingredients to look for, which tips to use, what not to use, what you should always have on hand. And then they proceed to show me step by step how to make 2 of my favorite dishes right there. And they show me how fast it could be, how easy it could be. And this is the reason why I wanted to do this for you guys, to reduce the intimidation. Yes, Wisdom for Wellbeing says, wow, that's amazing. They did that for you. Yes. And this is the reason why I share this story with you, to reduce the intimidation factor. And I have tried this approach. Anytime I find a dish that's just awesome and it seems like I have a good idea on essentially what ingredients might go in there, I ask the waiter and say, can I talk to the chef, please? Now, keep this in mind. Most of the times at restaurants, when someone requests to talk to the chef, it's usually a complaint. It is extremely rare for a chef to receive a compliment after being pulled out of the kitchen. So when you take this approach, the whole world will open up to you and you will get inspiration, motivation, and great ideas on how to make your dishes that you like, but healthier versions of it right in the comfort of your own home. I have tried this almost everywhere that I go, and no matter where I am nationwide. I've been to Florida, I've been to Wisconsin, I've been to Washington, Tennessee, Ohio, so many places. And I have tried this approach, and I'd say it has a 90% success rate, where either A, they will take you back in their kitchen and actually show you what to do step by step, as long as the night's not too busy, or B, they will share with you the recipe. For the other 10% that just didn't want to tell me, either A, it was a busy night, or they just were not really feeling like doing it. But a 90% success rate with taking this approach, you simply can't go wrong. And this is something that I also do in the coaching that I do also, and the consulting that I do for the program that's coming up. Right here in my kitchen, I know it's being remodeled, but right here in my kitchen, I take you live so you can ask questions and I can give you answers. And that program is going to be coming up October 18th. And because of the fact that I love all sorts of different food styles, although I really love Chinese food the best, but we cover all sorts of different food styles based on what it is that totally just rocks you, and come up with healthier alternatives. And we do it together to just totally knock out the intimidation factor, just like what I've been doing for the last several years, just talking to restaurants and getting their tips. And I recommend that you do that too. Talk to your favorite restaurant, get their tips, and they will be so open to you. And you win. You totally win, because you learn how to make your favorite food, but just simply in a healthier alternative. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me at the Dr. Grant Show. This was technically 5 beginner style tips for anyone interested in learning how to make Chinese food easier, an easier way to make Chinese food in their kitchen. We are on Mondays, live on Wednesdays, and Friday or Saturday with the show. Everyone, thank you so much. Wisdom for Wellbeings, thank you for joining. Please make sure to share this post and this show with your friends, or save it to your phone or wherever you're looking at this from, so you can refer to it later. I gave that all the recipes and all the tips. All right, everyone, much love to you. Good night.